Hi, my name is Spencer, and I am a health educator with MHW. In this video series, I'm going to walk you through how to set up a meal plan. We're going to cover how to lose weight, how to keep the weight off long term, and most importantly, what do you need to do if you want to adjust your plan? If you're getting bored, if you're not losing weight, if you're unhappy for some reason, or if you have a temporary challenge like a holiday or a vacation, or you're going through a death in your family or something like that. How do you adjust your plan when it's not working or you're not happy with it so that you don't have to just give up altogether and you can keep moving forward? Before we get into the video, I want to say two things. The first is, I don't mind if you never pursue one of our programs, if you never go to the website, if you never watch any more of our videos, if you never spend a penny with us. The stuff that we're going to go over in these videos is going to be practical advice that should apply to any weight loss effort. Whether you're going to start a diet, whether you're looking at a new exercise plan, whether you're thinking about surgery or something like that long term. The advice that we give here will be practical advice that will apply to almost everybody, and will give you the power to start doing these things on your own. So even if you never pursue anything through us, that's okay. The advice that we're going to put through in this video series should still be helpful for you, and I hope that you think about it at the very least, even if you aren't going to pursue one of our plans directly. The second thing that I want to say before we even get started is that the people who are the best at managing their weight long term are not the people with the best diets or the best exercise plans or the best genetics or the best health or the most money or the best doctors. The people who do the best at losing weight and keeping it off long term are the people with the best support system. How do you stay motivated? If you're feeling like you're getting ready to give up, who do you go to get inspiration? How do you stay accountable? If you know that you're not going to keep yourself in check, who's going to keep an eye on you and make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to? How do you get ideas? Where do you go for recipes? Where do you go for advice? If you have a new challenge that you haven't faced before, you're going to a restaurant for the first time, where do you go to get that information? The people who do the best long term are the ones who have the best resources to be able to get that advice when they need it. So my first tip before we even get into anything else is to figure out who your support system's going to be. It can be friends, it can be family, you might have a doctor, you might have a personal trainer, you might have a partner who's going to go through this process with you, but it also might be an online forum. It might be a YouTube channel that you go to. It might be a place where you can interact and get advice digitally, and you never meet this person face to face. It might be us. Maybe we can be part of the support system for you, but make sure that you know where that support system is going to be and who you're going to turn to when you have questions and you need help. I say that especially before we start this video series because there's a decent chance you're going to have questions about the things that we cover here. And I want you to know that's normal. And when you do have those questions, you should check out our website and you should figure out how to get in contact with our office. Whether that means sending us an email or leaving a comment on our YouTube channel or actually finding our schedule for when we live stream so that you can ask a question directly to us and we can face-to-face right there get your questions answered. That is where the most success is going to come from. Hopefully everything we go through in these videos makes sense and it might click right away for you and you'll be ready to hit the ground running, but there's a good chance you're going to have questions at some point down the line. I can almost guarantee it. So get that good support system. That's all I have to say before we get into the series. Now let's get started. This is video number 1 in our meal plan building series. In this video, I really just want to go over kind of what we're going to talk about in the upcoming videos, our general approach, how I think about weight loss and how we work with our clients within our programs, and how I recommend you think about weight loss, whether you're a part of one of our plans or whether you're going to pursue something on your own. There are two things that I tell everyone, regardless of our relationship. If someone's interested in weight loss, there are two things that I tell them above everything else. The first is that you want to be losing weight right away. If your goal is to lose weight, you want to start losing weight as soon as you get started, and you want to be losing weight continuously as you go throughout the process. Now, some weeks you're going to lose more, some weeks you're not going to lose as much. Some weeks you're going to be holding fluid, so it might not look like you lost at all, but then the next week you lose a ton of weight. That's not really what I'm talking about though. Over time, if you look week to week, month to month, you should see the scale gradually going down, and you should see that pretty consistently. You shouldn't see plateaus, you shouldn't have periods where you aren't losing weight at all. Those are indications that it's time to make a change, it's time to adjust, to do something differently. But more important than anything else, you want to be losing weight right from the very beginning. Do your research, pick the right plan, but when you get started, you should be seeing that progress right away. It shouldn't take time before you start seeing that. Now, the reason this is so important to me is because I only care about the benefits. I don't care about the number on the scale, but I do care about what it means. As you lose weight, you want something. You want to feel better, you want to look better, you want to move easier, you want to breathe easier, you want to come off medications, you want to get rid of your knee pain, you want to live longer, you want to do something. There's a reason why you're trying to lose that weight. And if you aren't seeing the progress on the scale, then you're probably not seeing the progress that you want for those goals. So it's really important to me that when I set somebody up with a plan, that I get them on track towards seeing that progress right away. And it's really important to me that as you go through this video series, if you're going to set a plan up for yourself, that it's the type of plan that's going to have you seeing results right away. Now, this might sound pretty obvious. Of course, if you're trying to lose weight, you want to see results. You don't want plateaus. You want to be consistent. You want to run all the way until you get to your goal. It makes sense intuitively. But most people, when they start losing weight, don't take an approach that's going to get them that progress. The vast majority of people, and I was one of them, when you start out trying to lose weight, most of us take an experimental sort of approach. That is to say, when I first started out trying to lose weight, I watched a bunch of videos, I read a bunch, I watched infomercials on TV, I asked my friends and family for their advice on weight loss. I went to a gym and I talked to some random strangers there and got their routines and their advice. I didn't talk to a trainer, but that's something that you might do. You talk to your doctor for whatever advice they have. And then I would watch Oprah to see what advice she had, or I would buy magazines in the grocery store checkout to see what Beyonce does to stay in shape while she's on tour. You go for all of this advice, and then you sort of pick what sounds the easiest, or what makes the most sense, or what's the least expensive, and you start there, and you go and you experiment. And you say, well, let me try each of these individual things and see what works. There's nothing wrong with taking that approach. It is what I did. It is what most people do, the vast, vast majority, especially when they're first starting out trying to lose weight. There's nothing wrong with taking an experimental approach and with getting a lot of advice and testing it out. The main drawback to that kind of approach, though, is time. If you're experimenting, some of the things you do aren't going to work. Sometimes you're not going to lose weight at all. Sometimes you're going to lose weight but then gain it back. Sometimes you're going to do the right thing, but you're going to be making some kind of mistake. So it looks like you're not getting the results you want. And so you give up on it and push it to the side and you quit before you see the results. And really, that was the thing you should have been doing all along. There are so many opportunities to make mistakes when you're experimenting, and every one of those mistakes represents time. It's another month that I invested into this diet that didn't work. And in addition to it costing you time, it costs you motivation. The more that you fail, the less you want to get restarted and try something else new. It's hard to keep moving forward if you aren't seeing that progress. And that is the biggest drawback to an experimental approach. It just takes more time. I was pretty fortunate from really the moment I started taking my weight loss seriously and I started experimenting. It took me about 5 years to get to my goal. And I was doing all of this experimenting along the way. I made mistakes, I had setbacks. I lost about 50 pounds. It took me 5 years to do it. A lot of people are not so fortunate. A lot of people never get to their goal when they're taking this experimental approach. There's so many setbacks, there's so many mistakes you can make. I regularly coach clients that are 60 years old, 70 years old, 80 years old, that have spent their entire lives going up and down and never really figuring out the right way to get everything under control. That's the major drawback. A, it takes more time, but B, it may take a lot more time. You may never quite get where you need to be. That is something that you have every right to do. But if you're watching these videos, I'm guessing that you're kind of tired with experimenting, And that's the case for most of my clients when they come into me. I've done that experimenting, I fooled around, now I just want something that I know is going to work. That is what will define this video series. Every piece of advice, every recommendation that I make to one of my clients has, in my mind, the motivation that they don't want to fool around. I need to give them real advice that's going to get them seeing results immediately and push them towards their goals as fast as possible, as safely as possible, to get them what they want. I mentioned that it took me about 5 years to lose 50 pounds. The average for our clinic is about 3 to 6 months to lose that 50 pounds. That means that it took me 10 times longer than it needed to for me to lose my weight. If I had had the right approach from the very beginning, I could have gotten there that much sooner. So that will be our goal. When we start you out in the next series of videos, every piece of advice will be something that is virtually guaranteed to help you see progress. We're not going to experiment. We're not going to try crazy stuff. We're not interested in whatever the new fads are. We're going to get you right away doing things that we know are going to work. The second thing that I share with everyone when we start talking about weight loss, in addition to the fact that you want to be losing weight right away and you want to see consistent results the whole time, is that you also need to be thinking about the long term from the very beginning. You want to lose this weight, you want to get your benefits, but if you gain that weight back, then you're going to lose those benefits again. So everything we do has to be geared towards not just taking the weight off, but making sure that the benefits that you get stay in place and you get to maintain all of the results that you've achieved. Now, again, this should sound obvious, but again, it's not the approach that most people take, especially when they first start out trying to lose weight. We are so centered on the weight loss and trying to find something that works and doing this experimentation. We just want to see the weight come off as fast as possible. And we're really motivated and we're angry and we're depressed and we want this weight gone. And so we do things that are extreme. We do things that push ourselves to our limits because we want to see those results. Okay? If it gets you a weight loss, it won't be a long-term result if you're pushing like that. You need things that are sustainable. It's the cliche at this point. I know that you've heard it's a lifestyle change, not a diet. But it's the truth. You need things that you're going to be able to stick to for the rest of your life. And that is the second thing that we really have to drive as we're setting up these plans. And you should be thinking about it from day one. Don't wait until you hit your goal and then try and figure out how you're going to keep the weight off long term. It should be something that you're thinking about from the very beginning. What that means for us when we're putting your plans together is twofold. Number one is that we want things that you're going to be able to do all the time. You shouldn't feel like you need a cheat meal or a day off or to take a break. If we set up a plan where you feel like that's necessary, then you're going to get in trouble at some point down the line. Because we're doing this for the rest of your life. You can't take a break from the rest of your life. You'll have holidays that you have to deal with for the rest of your life. You'll have vacations. You'll get bad news. You'll have to deal with stress and celebrations and social events. These things that often encourage us to want to take breaks and push our diets to the side are things we have to deal with forever. So it's really important that when we start setting up plans, we have an idea of how we're going to handle those situations and not just take a day off and get back on track tomorrow. They can have different rules, and often they will, but it shouldn't be no rules. We got to figure out what that's going to look like. The second thing that we have to think about if we're interested in the long term is what's going to make you happy. This is the most important question that I find nobody ever asks. And I would say this is the main reason why a lot of diet efforts fail, because you never ask what's going to make you happy, especially in the early stages. When you're trying to lose weight and you're motivated and you're excited and you just started your New Year's resolution and you're getting geared up for it, you can push through a lot. You're not necessarily happy, but you're seeing those numbers come down on the scale. So you can push and you can force and you can make things work that aren't going to work long term. And so I love to ask my clients periodically, are you happy? Would you be happy if you had to keep taking that approach for the rest of your life? For example, if somebody comes back from a party and they tell me, man, it was a really tough party, but I was strong, I didn't give in to temptations, and I'm excited for it. I sat and I sipped my diet soda and I didn't touch anything I wasn't supposed to eat. When they come in and they step on the scale and they give me that feedback and they lose weight, everything there looks good. If you filter from any other perspective, any other diet that you might have done in the past, all of that sounds good. I didn't give in to temptations, I lost weight, it all sounds great. The problem is obvious though when I ask them, were you happy? If you went to a party and it was 5 years in the future and you were already at your goal, would you do the same thing again? If you had to do that every time you went to a party for the rest of your life, would you want to do that? And very clearly right away, most people will say no. I don't want to go to a party and sit and sip diet soda and that's the way that I'm going to approach parties for the rest of my life. You want to be able to eat. You want to be able to enjoy the party. You want to feel like you're a part of it with everybody else. You want to participate. You want to have a good time. Those are the things that often get ignored. And they get ignored because we have a perspective that you have to ignore them. We've been told through diets our whole lives that you have to limit yourself and you have to have self-control and you have to restrict and you have to cut back and you have to put these impositions on yourself. That you have to be unhappy right now while you're trying to lose weight because you have a goal. Okay? And to a certain extent, yes, you have to learn new things and you have to experiment and some things are going to change. You're not going to be able to do everything exactly the way you used to. But if you truly aren't happy, if you're taking an approach that you wouldn't take for the rest of your life, then it should be really obvious at some point, maybe not this week, I'm glad you lost weight this week, but maybe next week, maybe 2 months from now, maybe 2 years from now. At some point, you're going to be in that situation again, or a similar situation, and you're not going to want to do that. And that's not your fault, because nobody really wants to go to a party and sit and sip diet soda and just sort of brute force their way through it. Okay? And that's an easy example, but when you start talking about sort of the negative experiences we go through in life, then this becomes super, super obvious. Okay? If you're dealing with a death, if you're dealing with a breakup, if you've lost your job, if you're having some other conflict within your life, within your social group, or whatever the case is, emotionally, you lose the motivation to put that self-control in place. When I'm going through a breakup, and this is my high school sweetheart, we've been together forever, and then you put me face to face with a bowl of ice cream, you can't ask me to just brute force my way through it. No person would do that. And those are exactly the situations that cause people to gain their weight back long term. And so I know that I'm selling a lot here, but this is the reason why people find success with their weight loss. This is the only reason why people find success with their weight loss. It's when they can figure out how to solve those challenges and still be happy. And you're going to have to deal with those for the rest of your life. So those are my 2 pieces of advice. Before you do anything else, as we go through the rest of these videos, we're going to dig into how exactly to set up your plans and why our weight loss works the way that it does. Before you understand any of that, though, you should be prepared for those 2 realities. You want to lose weight right away. You need to see consistent progress so that you stay motivated and so that you get to your goal. And you need to be thinking about the long term. What can I do so that I don't have to have cheat meals and take breaks and quit? And what can I do so that I'll be happy for the rest of my life? That will be the most important question that we ask through this entire process. Thank you guys for watching. If it made sense, if you want to take a step forward, go on to video number 2 in our plan making series. Thanks. Bye.